Hello, you listen to Count Richard von Coudenhove Kalergi. Today is Friday, the 11th of January, and here's a couple of comments since my last video. On January the 8th, President Trump, in a speech on the border wall, said some have suggested a barrier is immoral. Then why do wealthy politicians build walls, fences and gates around their homes? They don't build walls because they hate the people outside, but because they love the people on the inside. This logic coming from a man who was called a mother effer by one of two Muslims elected to Congress. Rashida Tlaib swore on the Quran and then swore later on, saying that we are going to impeach this mother effer. This is the depths that the Democrats are prepared to sink and try and gain some political favour on Trump. I am reminded of the acceptance speech given by Senator Barry Goldwater when he ran as a Republican candidate in July 1964. Extremism in the defence of liberty is no vice, and moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue. Take note, Charlie Flanagan. In Bremen, Germany, a senior member of the ADF and Member of Parliament, Frank Magens, was brutally attacked by three masked men on Monday night after leaving the theatre in what has been described as an assassination attempt. The brutal attack, where he was beaten around the head with blocks of wood, took place less than a week after an ADF office was firebombed in Dolben, Saxony. The ADF, which records attacks on offices, members and their homes, gave statistics that over 600 attacks took place during 2017. More from that canary in the coal mine, Sweden. During the police hand grenade amnesty, which has been running since October 2018, and is due to end next Wednesday, patrols have been called to 280 addresses in southern Sweden. Bengt Schuster, musicians director for the police, said that they found explosives, but not one hand grenade. Sweden, since September elections, saw a record 161 women elected out of 349 take their seat, in the highest proportion of female MPs in any European Parliament, and in 2014 proudly declared that it had the world's first feminist government. Sweden, in a 10-year period, took in 1.25 million migrants, peaking in 2016 at 150,000, and in 2017 135,000, and in 2018 134,000. The Swedish army in 2004 had 60,000 soldiers, and in 2013, 3 years after conscription had ended, had an all-time low figure of 16,000 soldiers. The Swedish authorities are now so concerned that they are considering a reintroduction of conscription. This in a country of 10.2 million people. As of 2017, Statistics Sweden reported that 2,440,000, or 24.1% of the inhabitants of Sweden, came from a foreign background. This is a jump from 1.33 million in 2010. The Irish Army, by the way, has, of September 2018, 7,247 members, 720 members in the Irish Air Corps and 1,022 in the Irish Navy. This week saw the 4th anniversary of the Charlie Hebdo attack in Paris, where 12 people were killed and 11 injured, at the offices of the satirical magazine. Founded in 1970 and ceased publication in 1981, it was relaunched in 1992. In November 2011, the offices were firebombed, and it was presumed that it was because of an edition of the monthly magazine that they decided to call Sharia Hebdo, which had listed Muhammad as editor-in-chief, with a cover cartoon saying 100 lashes of the whip if you don't die laughing. During the attack, the gunmen shouted Allah Akbar and also shouted that the Prophet had been avenged. One of those killed was Stefan Charbonnier, age 47, a journalist and cartoonist known as Sharb, had previously, in September 2012, had been put on the Al-Qaeda's most wanted list, said that I am not afraid of reprisals and I'd prefer to die on my feet than live on my knees. The massacre that took place on the same day that French novelist Michel Houellebecq produced and published his novel Submission, a novel which imagines a situation in which a Muslim with Islamist views, with the help of the Social Party, becomes President of France in 2022. The book became an instant bestseller in France, Germany and Italy. The book was compared by some critics to the 1973 novel Le Camp des Sang, written by Jean Raspail, a novel about the political impotence of Europe in the face of a massive wave of third world immigrants. Marine Le Pen stated in an interview that the fiction of submission could one day become a reality. In domestic issues, the taxi driver wanted for the rape of a passenger before Christmas, who later fled the country, was arrested on arrival back in Dublin Airport by Gardaí as being released without charge, saying that the sex was consensual. The Taliban-based suspect fled the country for a number of weeks. The South Asian man, as he was described, has been living there for a number of years, and whose house had been forensically examined, was released without charge, claiming he did not rape the 22-year-old woman 3 times between the hours of 12:45 a.m. and 12:15 a.m. A file has been sent to the Department of Public Prosecutions. An ISIS terrorist who has an Irish citizenship was one of 5 people captured by the Syrian Democratic Forces. Originally from Belarus, he arrived in Ireland in the early 2000s. The 45-year-old obtained Irish citizenship, worked in retail and security, and lived here for about 10 years. While here, Garda received information from a foreign intelligence agency that he was an active member of radical Islamist groups. He was put on a watch list. He left in 2013 for the Middle East and made his way up to Syria. Not my Taoiseach, Varadkar, who is over in Mali at the moment, said that any Irish citizen around the world is entitled to consular assistance. Is that right, Leo? How did a man with ISIS sympathies who was on a watch list get Irish citizenship? Does one hand of the Department of Justice know what the other hand is doing? Do you have any respect for the Irish citizens that this paper Irishman managed to slip through the net? And maybe it's time to tighten up the necessary requirements and increase the level of scrutiny when someone enters the state. Surely this is an act of civil disobedience, should warrant the cancellation of his passport and deportation back to Belarus, instead of, as some suggested, 10 years in jail. In other domestic issues, the Shannon Key West Hotel had a fire last night, and with flammable liquid being spread around the bar and reception area. Justice Minister Charlie Flanagan is reported to be deeply concerned, as final preparations were being made to house 80 asylum seekers / economic migrants due to arrive shortly. Well, Mr. Flanagan, where is your concern for the community of Rooskey that were never discussed about this? Where's your consent on the asylum system? Where's your concern on the unrestricted migration after you have signed the Global Compact on Migration, or the effects this has had on services, housing and crime? Did you show concerns for the men attacked while doing their jobs while driving taxis, buses and delivery men by African gangs? Sinister Minister David Stanton must be now looking for some new friends for the centre. Gemma O'Doherty did an excellent feed last night, and she had over 700 commentators. I think she's going to have one later on, so I'm looking forward to watching that. I noticed I have a couple of new subscribers this week. Terry, thanks very much for subscribing. I look forward to your comments. And just another thing about the Rooskey incident, it's a little bit convenient about that fire, so it suits quite a number of people, possibly an insurance job, and to deflect attention from other issues. So there are a couple of my comments, which are my own. Thanks for listening, and bye bye.